Ethan Chapin's mother, Stacy Chapin, has finally broken her silence in a powerful, deeply emotional message following the sentencing of her son's accused killer, and what she shared is absolutely heartbreaking. On 23 July, 2025, Bryan Kohberger was officially sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, nearly 3 years after he brutally murdered Ethan and 3 other University of Idaho students. That day in court marked the final chapter of a case that shocked the entire nation. Kohberger, once a criminology PhD student, pleaded guilty earlier this month in a deal that spared him the death penalty, choosing instead to accept 4 life sentences and an additional 10 years for burglary. But for Ethan's family, justice was never about vengeance. It was about peace. And now, with the sentencing complete, Stacy Chapin says her family has finally found it. In a heartfelt Instagram post shared on 31 July, Stacy explained that she and her husband, Jim Chapin, made the incredibly difficult decision not to attend Kohberger's sentencing. And the reason? To protect their other 2 children, Ethan's triplet siblings, Maisie and Hunter, from the trauma of facing their brother's killer once again. She wrote, "Attending the sentencing would have been traumatic for our surviving children. They've been through enough." That single sentence encapsulated the impossible choices the Chapin family has been forced to make since that unthinkable night in November 2022. Ethan, just 20 years old when he was killed, was a triplet. A bright, joyful, and magnetic young man described by his mother as the glue that held our family together. In her message, Stacy recalled his laugh, his hugs, and his incredible ability to bring people together. She wrote, "There will never be another Ethan. You were only with us for 20 years, but your impact will last a lifetime." The Chapins have handled their grief with extraordinary grace, choosing not to focus on the man who took Ethan's life, but instead to elevate Ethan's memory. Stacy and Jim established the Ethan's Smile Foundation, which has already raised over $50,000 to fund scholarships at the University of Idaho. They also co-authored a children's book, The Boy Who Wore Blue, based on Ethan's life and spirit. And perhaps most meaningful of all, Ethan's surviving siblings, Maisie and Hunter, graduated from the University of Idaho this past May, walking across the same campus where their brother once stood, now carrying forward his legacy with pride and resilience. Back in court, Kohberger's sentencing was filled with pain, tension, and anger. Families of the other victims, Madison Morgan, Kaylee Goncalves, and Xana Kernodle, gave searing victim impact statements. Some called Kohberger a sociopath and a coward. Others begged him to explain why. But Kohberger remained silent. Not a single word of remorse. Not an apology. Not even a glance toward the families he destroyed. Ethan's parents, by contrast, had already made peace with the plea deal earlier this month. Jim Chapin told reporters, "It's been almost 2.5 years. It's over. We are ready to move forward." Stacy was even more candid. She said that seeing Kohberger plead guilty earlier in July brought unexpected closure. "It was cold, calculated. He was like a robot. Zero remorse," she explained. "But weirdly, it gave us peace. We saw him, we heard him, and then we let go." For those who have followed the case from the beginning, the emotional toll has been staggering. On 13 November 2022, 4 University of Idaho students were stabbed to death in the early morning hours at their rental home in Moscow, Idaho. The victims, Ethan Chapin, Xana Kernodle, Madison Morgan, and Kaylee Goncalves, were found brutally murdered with a military-style knife. Kohberger, who had studied criminology just a few miles away at Washington State University, was arrested weeks later on 30 December in Pennsylvania. The case sent shockwaves through the country, sparking viral true crime interest, speculation, and ultimately, heartbreak. Since that arrest, the Chapin family has tried to stay grounded. While others pushed for the death penalty, the Chapins supported the plea deal, hoping it would bring an end to the chaos. "We didn't want a trial," Stacy said. "We wanted peace." They also emphasized their desire to shield their children from the spectacle of courtroom proceedings. That protection was evident when they skipped the final sentencing. Now, with Kohberger behind bars for life, the Chapins are focused on healing. "We will never forget Ethan," Stacy wrote in her closing lines. "But we will not let his life be defined by how it ended. We will define it by how he lived." It's a powerful message, a mother's pain, transformed into purpose. Through their foundation, their writing, and their resolve, the Chapins are keeping Ethan's light alive. Make sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more celebrity updates just like this.